Welcome to the Implementing DEIA Training for Editors in a Library Publishing Program presentation with the eScholarship Publishing team at the California Digital Library at the University of California. I'm Catherine Mitchell, Director of Publishing Archives and Digitization, and I'm here with Amanda Karby and Charlotte Rowe, both of whom are eScholarship Publications managers. eScholarship was established in 2002 and provides Diamond OA publishing and repository services for the scholarly communication needs of the University of California academic community. Our publishing program includes journals, conference proceedings, monographs, and multimedia objects, and our open access repository is the destination for postprints, preprints, and working papers, and electronic theses and dissertations. On the left of this slide, you'll see a sample of the covers of the over 90 journals that we publish. These journals span academic disciplines and share a commitment to the open distribution of knowledge and research, including international publications led by UC faculty, flagship publications representing UC research units, law reviews affiliated with UC law schools, and campus-specific student journals. The official policy of the University of California is that diversity, inclusion, and accessibility are integral to its excellence and its core mission. On the left of this slide is a screenshot from the Regents Policy 4400 going into more detail on the value of diversity in the UC system. And on the right is a screenshot of the Library Publishing Coalition's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in library publishing. With these value statements in mind, our team has been at work to advance DEIA best practices within scholarly communication via both a resource designed to help stakeholders consider actions they might take to embody these values and an actionable plan within our library publishing program, to be described by Charlotte and Amanda, that is designed to empower and encourage our journal editors to follow these best practices. Under the auspices of the University of California Office of Scholarly Communication, Charlotte and I, along with UC librarians Carrie Scott, Allegra Swift, and Annalisa Taylor, created a diversity, equity, and inclusion in scholarly publishing resource aimed at providing information for authors, journal editors, and peer reviewers, publishers, and librarians to reconsider their roles within scholarly communication and the ways that they might advance diversity, equity, and inclusion within their own practices. This resource is endorsed by the UC Academic Senate and thus stands as an articulation of our institutional values. It is also the resource that we kept in mind when creating the DEIA in Scholarly Publishing webinar for our own journal editors. I'll now hand off to Charlotte, who will describe this training and our goals for it.
So the learning objectives for this 30-minute DEIA in Scholarly Publishing webinar are that attendees first understand the ethical issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in scholarly publishing, and second, explore ways to address these issues in their publications. The slides address 5 topics. The first topic is editorial staff and editorial boards with 2 slides. The first slide asks, why does diversity matter on editorial boards? The second slide includes suggestions and resources for diversifying editorial boards. This 2-slide problem and answer structure is replicated throughout the 5 topics, and the script includes further information as well as practical suggestions. For example, we tell editors that the first step here is often simply taking an audit of who has served previously on your publication's editorial board. The second topic, author pool, again replicates the problem and solution with slides titled, quote, why diversify your author pool and things to consider for diversifying your author pool. You'll note that we introduce concepts like cumulative advantage, and in each of these topics, we also bring in the UC-wide resource that Catherine highlighted at the top of this presentation. This is something that we do very purposefully in every section. In the slide titled Peer Review Isn't Perfect, we point out the problem of unpaid labor and the importance of community-owned scholarship. We include a quote from a scoping review on bias in peer review. This DEIA webinar actually includes 3 scoping reviews, one in the author pool section, one in this peer review section, and another in the following section on citation bias. One of the things we want to convey through sources like this is that the research on these topics is already extensive and the need for improvement is established. And you'll see again in this slide titled Some Tools to Make Peer Review Better, we brought in the UC-wide resource once again. we also mentioned, both here and in other places, that we do have additional training in which these DEIA topics are embedded. When we first created this DEIA overview webinar, it was with the understanding that this is an overview, and for real change, we will have to work more closely with journals to address each of these topics. One of the practical ways in which the publishing industry as a whole has responded to calls for DEIA is through changing the standards for language through the style guides. Typically, journals are just thinking about citation formatting, but as you can see from the title of the first slide, Style Guides, Citations Are More Than Formatting, we want editors to realize that citations are political and that they can implement citational justice in their publications. In the second slide, titled Publishers Are Responding Through Updates and New Guides, this is a preview of the APA Inclusive Language Guide, but we also mention changes that have been made in Chicago, MLA, JAMA, and how journals can create publication-specific style guides. This is especially helpful for social science and humanities fields, which often use Chicago, the most conservative and text-based of the style guides. The accessibility section is actually 3 slides. The first addressing how accessibility is a right, not a privilege, and the other 2 demonstrating how online content can have born accessible features and tools for accessible PDF practices, since most of our journals publish PDF files. Federal and state websites need to comply with these accessibility standards by April 2026, and that includes us. But even without knowing that, I would say that this topic actually raises the most questions and interest from attendees. They are very much wanting to make changes to make things better, which is great. I mentioned earlier that we are intentional with the resources that we cite and share, and this is because this slide deck, including the script, are shared with the attendees so that they in turn can go through the presentation with their teams and hopefully improve how their journals operate. And you can see here that we have a quick follow-up survey as well, and Amanda will talk more about the survey results as well as the logistics and communication around these webinars.
Conducting these webinars necessitated a lot of planning ahead of time, not just in creating the presentation materials, but also in strategizing our communication with editors, as well as aligning our plans with the ongoing migration of our program to Janeway, our new journals platform, which we began in fall 2023. You can learn more about our migration tomorrow in our colleagues Lisa Schiff and Justin Gonder's session, Taming the Beast, leveraging a large-scale platform migration for strategic program goals. Implementing this migration has involved meeting with members from each of our journal's editorial teams multiple times to introduce them to and train them on how to use Janeway. These meetings have provided a convenient opportunity to also begin rolling out our educational modules, starting with this DEIA overview webinar. After some time of regularly presenting, we integrated attendance to this webinar as a requirement for a journal to fully migrate to Janeway. In the following slides, we'll outline how we went about scheduling the webinars, communicating with our journal partners, getting their feedback, and then what comes next. We began by inviting a cohort of journals that had finished migrating to Janeway to a pilot version of the webinar in early 2024, after which we created a schedule of regular sessions occurring twice a month, beginning in early summer of that same year. Whenever a journal finished migration, it was added to a tracking spreadsheet, which allowed us to monitor which journals had been invited. The spreadsheet is also where we've kept track of all relevant dates: when a journal was first invited to attend the webinar, when they were sent a reminder and how many times, when they registered, and if and when they did attend. We created templates for the initial invites and reminder emails, each escalating in language and tone. We wanted to communicate that the webinar is not only a beneficial educational opportunity for our editors, but it's also a vital, relevant discussion with their peers. The tone of our communication became particularly important once we implemented webinar attendance as a requirement for journals to complete their migration. So, how were these invitations and reminders received? By the numbers, here's how our journals have been responding. 5 journals were invited to the initial pilot webinar, all of whom registered and attended. 21 journals then received an initial invitation via email. 6 of those 21 registered and attended a webinar session. The 15 of those 21 journals who had not yet registered then received a follow-up reminder, and another 6 from that remaining group registered. Then lastly, the remaining 9 from that first group received a second reminder, the sternest of the bunch, resulting in 1 more registration. 17 journals have migrated to Janeway since we made webinar attendance a requirement, and 9 of those journals have since registered and attended. So to put those numbers more simply into full totals, 44 journals in our program have either been expressly invited to the webinar or they've begun their Janeway migration since we implemented the attendance requirement. 28 of those journals have registered and/or completed the webinar, and 16 have yet to register. It's certainly challenging to craft a communication plan and monitor our editors' participation while also emphasizing the importance of these webinars. They're still ongoing, as is our migration to Janeway. So we're actively working on approaching those journals who still have not yet registered to attend, as well as making sure that those that are newly migrated are aware of their attendance requirement. Along with all of our planning and the challenges that we've encountered, we've also received a lot of wonderful feedback. After each webinar, we send out a follow-up email to its attendees, thanking them for joining us, linking them to our presentation slides and notes, encouraging them to share with the rest of their journal's team, and asking them to fill out a short Google form seeking their feedback. The form asks for their name and journal with 3 questions about their experience. Was the webinar material clear and engaging? Was the session a good use of your time? And a space for comments and questions. You can see on this slide that we've had 100% positive response rates regarding the webinar material and folks feeling it was a good use of their time, demonstrating that our editors are sincerely invested in learning more about these topics. Editors have also been kind and grateful in sharing their comments, which has been encouraging. These are things that are always nice to hear, of course, but they also show how the webinars are impacting how our editors are thinking about and approaching their work.
And finally, our next steps are to implement our experience from this DEIA training into continued structured training for editors. We've identified a short list of topics that are critical for our journals and are almost done creating workshops. Each workshop is a 1.5-hour session structured as follows: an overview of the basics and contemporary issues, discussion and Q&A, workshop time to look at journals and where things might need to change or improve, with diversity, equity, and inclusion topics embedded throughout. Here you can see example slides from our peer review and ethics and policy trainings that we will be launching later this year. We will also be checking in with our DEIA webinar attendees to see if changes have been implemented and where help is needed. While this effort has been important to us from the beginning, it seems more important and pertinent in our current context. If you have any questions about the work we have done and continue to do, please feel free to contact us at help@escholarship.org.